Hey, what's up guys? The video you're about to watch is one of the labs that I'm creating on KBTrainings.com for the course on the Cisco CCNA 200-301. The course goes from zero to engineer and it will help you prepare, learn, and pass the Cisco CCNA exam, which can help you start or boost your career in the tech industry. So if you like the lab, go check out the course on KBTrainings.com, and if you have any questions, send me an email. I'll be glad to respond. Thank you and enjoy the lab. Hey, what's up guys? This is Guy here with KBTrainings. Welcome to the lab number 6.2.2. We are still talking about IP services, and specifically we're talking about DNS. In the last lesson, I introduced DNS and talked about all the main things you have to know about DNS, which is very important in the network. If you don't have a functional DNS server, you might run into a lot of trouble with your client not able to access the internet or some other issues in your network. So today we are going to do some DNS configuration. Of course, Cisco doesn't ask us to do the configurations. If we take a look at the exam blueprint, you can see that under 4.3, Cisco is asking to explain the role of DHCP and DNS within the network. We saw DHCP and we did some configuration and verification of DHCP as well. But today we are seeing the DNS. We saw DNS, but we are doing some configuration and manipulations of DNS in the lab. This is going a little beyond what Cisco is asking for, but it's good for you because you're going to learn a lot in this lab and you're going to be comfortable with this protocol here. So today we're going to see the following points. First of all, I'm going to talk about the DNS in an enterprise network. I'm going to take the case of my home network. I have a home network with this design here. For those of you that are watching me on YouTube, you have seen this before. This is my home network, and I have a VLAN 35 where I have all my critical devices like phones, cameras, workstations, and I also have a Windows Server 2019. This is where I have the DNS service installed. This is my DNS server, and basically what it does is that it is located at 10.35.0.2, and every time someone sends a DNS query to this address, they're going to receive a response. I have a local domain name called local, and this computer, for example, is located at winser, as in Windows Server, .local. So if I resolve winser.local, I'm going to receive 10.35.0.2. So we're going to go in details in this, but it's just part of my home network. And after that, I'm going to show you how to configure DNS on a Cisco router. We're going to have these 3 Cisco routers in GNS3. So I'm going to configure this one as the server, and these 2 will be the clients. So R1 and R2 will be the client, and this server router will be the DNS server in our network, 10.0.0/24, not to 24. And we're going to do some packet capture right here to see exactly what's going on inside the network. I'm going to show you how to do some configuration on a Windows computer. We're going to do the same configuration on Mac OS with a MacBook, just to show you how to set up the DNS server in these computers. And then we will do some packet analysis using Wireshark with GNS3. So to start, I'm going to talk about my home network and how my DNS is set up. As I said, this is the design of my home network right now. You've seen this on YouTube. So I have a Windows Server 2019 having the DNS running on it. You can run DNS pretty much anywhere in your network where you have a device that supports DNS. So for example, if this is the UDM Pro SE, if the UDM was supporting DNS, I don't know if it does, I don't think it does, but if it was supporting DNS, I could have had it activated here. At some point I was running DNS on my FortiGate, because the FortiGate can be your local DNS server. Just like today, I'm going to show you how to use a Cisco router as your DNS server, so you can run it anywhere. It can be a Linux VM where you have DNS installed, or in my case, it is a Windows Server 2019. And I'm going to go RDP into it right now and show you what I have. So if I open RDP or remote desktop connection, you can see that I'm going to remote desktop into winser.local. This is the host name of my Windows computer, of my Windows Server computer. So once I do this, I'm going to be logged into it directly. And here you can see that under Server Manager, I have some services running here. I have Active Directory, I have DHCP, even though I'm currently using the DHCP from the UDM Pro, not the Windows Server. But I have DNS enabled. I also have file and storage services. But for DNS, I need to go under this application here. This is where I can manage my DNS entries. I have another domain, lab.com, which is not being used right now. Right now I use local, and you can see that under local I have these different entries. So if I do hp.local, it's going to resolve 10.35.0.3. All of these are static. Some devices can be configured to update the IP dynamically, but I didn't bother to do that in my home network. I do everything statically. So this is the WinSer with 10.35.0.2. And if I want to configure the DNS on my computer, I just need to go under network settings and change adapter, double click on IPv4 or Internet Protocol version 4, and here is where I can change my DNS for this computer. Right now I use 127.0.0.1 because that's my local IP. This is my loopback IP, so I use myself as a DNS server and I use Google as the backup. That's it for this computer here. So this is my Windows server, and this is where I have my DNS installed. As I said, you can install it anywhere. I choose to do it on Windows Server because I deal with Windows Server with a lot of my clients, so I just need to have something like this running so I know exactly what I'm dealing with most of the time. And quickly, if you are on a Mac, you need to go under System Preferences. You go under Network, you select the connection you want, and you click on Advanced Connectivity. And here you can find a DNS you can change, add, and do a bunch of things. If you like this lab, make sure you like the video on YouTube and then subscribe to the channel to make sure you won't miss any of my future videos. And follow me on Facebook and Instagram for the behind the scene. And I'm also going to be doing some lives every weekend. So make sure you follow me there so we can connect live. And back to the lab. That's it. So if you are on your computer like here, and I told you in the last lesson that when you are trying to resolve a host name or domain name, the computer, like a Windows computer, will check three places. It will check the memory or the DNS cache. It's going to check the host file, which is usually not modified many times, but you may need to modify it sometime, or it will send a new query to the DNS server. So let me show you some commands that you can use for troubleshooting. First of all, we have NSLookup. If you want to know if your DNS server is working or you want to know the IP linked to a certain domain name, you can do NSLookup and then give it the domain like google.com. You can see that my DNS server is responding, even though response is coming from another server, but it's showing me that google.com is at this IPv6 IP or this IPv4. So this is what you can use if you want to do like NSLookup winser.local. You can see that my local server responded, and this is the IP that is linked to winser.local. And if you want to see the content of your memory or your DNS cache, you can do ipconfig/display DNS. This will show you what you have in memory right now. So if next time my computer want to go to this to this FQDN here, it's not going to send a new query because it already knows what it is. And this will stay in memory for this amount of seconds. This is the time to leave. It's pinging. And then if I do display DNS again, I'm going to have winser.local in my cache, in my DNS cache on my computer. This is very useful. It makes everything very quick when you are dealing with DNS queries. And now let's go in GNS3, and I'm going to show you, we're going to do some manipulations here. Before that, let me show you some commands that we're going to use. So these are a few of the commands that we're going to use today. From here, these are mostly for DNS clients, and these are for DNS server, and this is for verification. And these are the Windows commands that I showed you, like NSLookup, ipconfig display DNS, or ipconfig flush DNS. So the commands we have here, first of all, we have IP domain lookup. This is enabled by default. If you are in a Cisco router, by default, this is enabled. This will just tell your router that it can do name resolution. And if you don't want your router to do name resolution, you can do no IP domain lookup. Why would you do that? Sometimes if you make a mistake in your commands, for example, you will see that your router is trying to resolve that bad command. And if you don't want your router to do that, or your switch to do that all the time, you can disable IP domain lookup. It will not do it anymore. So you won't need the DNS server, and it will just take that as a mistake. So the second command is IP name server. This is what you use to tell your router what is the DNS server it should use. You can add up to 6 DNS addresses, I think. So this is the IP address of your DNS server. You can also add your router to a certain domain by doing IP, domain name, and the name of your domain. Like in my case, I told you the name is local. So I will do IP, domain name, local, and it will add it to my domain. And the next time you're using it, you can just, if you want to access a device, you can do like ping R1, for example, without adding the domain. It knows what domain it is in and it will add it itself. We're going to do that in a lab really soon. And as I said, these are mostly for server side. You do IP DNS server to enable your router to be a DNS server. And if you want to add new host to your DNS server, you just do IP host. You give it the host name and the IP address that is associated. And these are for verification. You can do show IP name servers to see the different DNS servers that you have configured, or the DNS IPs that you have in your configuration. You can do show running config pipe include name. It will show you the commands with name inside, and usually there are DNS commands that you have. You can do show host to see the different hosts that you have. This is in a server, and you can see the different hosts that you have configured on your DNS server. So the commands are not made to be memorized. You need to apply them. You need to play with them. That's how you understand them. So we're going to go in GNS3, and I'm going to make sure these different routers are configured. These are some basic initial config that I usually put on a device. First of all, I go under the enable mode, configuration mode, and I give it the host name. And I go under line console 0 to make sure login synchronous is activated. This will prevent those notifications from disturbing you. They will be synchronized. And I go under the interface gigabit 1 and give it an IP address and do a no shot. And here I'm going to use telnet. Telnet will be used just to show you how I can use the domain name or the host name to telnet into a device right away. It's not the subject of this lesson, but we're going to use it anyway. So I'm going to put this command here for telnet. Go under VTY 0 to 15. Transfer input telnet, and then login local. And I'm going to create a new user called Cisco with the password Cisco. And I'm also going to create an enable password Cisco for all the devices. So I'm going to grab this and put this in all the devices. Oh, one other thing, I want to disable IPv4. No, IPv6 unicast routing. So I will do no IPv6 unicast on all the devices, because sometimes when I send the DNS, when I try to resolve a host name, I have those AAAA queries that I sent, and from my research, it either says that I need to disable IPv4 unicast or I need to disable IPv4 on the interface. I'm not sure which one works, but we're going to see that in this lab. Okay, so I'm going to grab this and put it on the server. Okay, it's done. And I can make a few changes for R1. I will change this to R1. And I will do IP 11. Okay. Grab the same thing, put it under R1. Okay. Make the same change now for R2. Grab the whole thing and go under R2 and plug it in. Okay, this should work. And let me try to disable or to make sure IPv6 is not activated. No IPv6 address. What other option do we have? No IPv6 address crypto enable. Oh, maybe no IPv6 enable is what I should do. Okay. Yeah, I think I will do no IPv6 enable. And then I'll just come here and do copy running configurations to starting configuration, startup configuration, and that's it. And then I want to reload this device. Okay, here I do no IPv6 enable, and then I'll copy this to startup config, and then I'm going to reload. Okay, R2 conft in the phase 1, no IPv6 enable. Reload. Alright, so our devices are back online. We have the server here, R1 and R2. So as I told you, we're going to configure server as a DNS server, R1 as the first client and R2 as a second client. So let's go in server and do the main configuration, enable Cisco. So from here we go in the config mode and do IP DNS server. This will enable this computer or this router to be a DNS server, and we can also give it a domain, IP domain name. I'm going to call it local, and we can add the host as well. I can do IP host R1 as the first client with IP of 10.0.0.11, and we can do R2 as well, and I can add another host named SRV for the server itself. So we are done configuring the server. If you want to verify, you can do show host, for example. It's going to show you the 3 hosts that we have and their IP addresses. These are A type with the IPs. And if I do show run include DNS, it will show me that I have DNS enabled here. If I include name, I think I'll see just the domain name. Yeah, it's showing me that I have a domain name local. All right, that's it for the server. And let's go in the client. I'm going to open R1, Cisco. So this one as a client, what we have to do is show it what the name server is. So IP name server 10.0.0.1, and we're going to add the domain name as well. IP domain name local. Nope, it's local. Wow. All right, IP domain name local, and that's it. I can do show running configuration include name. We have our name server and domain name. I can grab these two and come in router 2, login, mode config, and type these 2 commands. All right, so these 2 are now linked to this router as the server. So I can do some packet capture over here. Okay, I have a lot of noise going on here, trying to go to cisco.com for the tools. I think I may need to disable no call home, but that's fine. I'll just do what I have to do. So I go under R1, for example, and no, this is R2. So I'm going to ping R1. By doing this, it should send a request to the DNS server. As you can see it right here, it's asking what is the IP of R1.local. Let me stop this. So it's asking what is the IP of R1.local. If we look at the packet itself, the query is here, R1.local. I'm looking for the IP. And somewhere down here, we should have a reply. If we go back in R2, we can see that R2 had a response. It knows that R1 is located at 10.0.0.11. This is coming from the DNS server. And then we did our ping and it was successful. So that's, we should see a response somewhere in here. Let's see, it's going from 1 to 11. Yep, this is the response. No, that one is a failure. We should have a response somewhere. That's failure. We have a lot of failures actually with these tools that Cisco.com. This is This is just too much. We don't care about all of that. We just care about our local network. This network is not connected to the internet. As you can see, it's local. So that's why when the routers are trying to get to tools.cisco.com, there's no way for them to do it. That's why we have a lot of noise happening here in terms of DNS. But at least we know that our router was able to resolve R1, and I enabled our telnet so I can show you how I can telnet into R1 from here. I just need to type R1, and once I send the command, it's going to resolve and try to telnet into R1. Okay, as you can see here, we resolved the address, and now we are trying to telnet into that device. So I can do Cisco, password Cisco, and boom, I'm into R1 from R2. With the enabled password, I'm able to log in. So this is how you can telnet from any device to any other device. I can do SRV from R1, and this will telnet into the server that we have up here. I have username Cisco, password Cisco, and now I am inside the server, Cisco. And if I go on the server itself, I can do show users. It will show me that I have one user that is connected through the console, which I am here, and we have another user under the VTY line called Cisco. So this is how, and it's coming from R1. This is where the connection is coming from. So that's how you can do it. All right, guys, that's all for today for the DNS. I encourage you to do the same, play with it. You can do it in Packet Tracer. Actually, in Packet Tracer, you can use that server that comes with Packet Tracer. You can activate DNS on there and put your host in there and do some queries and see how it works. So if you have any question, you can go ahead and Google it. If you still don't have any answer, you can come to the forum and ask your question, or you can send me an email. I'll be glad to respond. Thank you for watching this. If you like the lab, check out the course on KBTrainings.com. It goes from zero to engineer, and it will help you take and pass your CCNA 200-301. And like the video on YouTube and share it with your community. Also subscribe to the channel so you won't miss any of my future videos and future projects that I'm sharing with you here. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care and bye.